Welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. This is Day of the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. As many of you today may not be working because we know that your kids aren't in school, because it is a day for all government employees to not work today. And we're all about not working. So we've decided with the school holiday today to rack for you our top 5 favorite school movies.
Top 5 school movies. And this might be a little bit of a controversial list depending on what your definition of a school movie is. We didn't necessarily talk about the particulars of that, but in my opinion, I think that the movies should revolve around school, multiple scenes taking place in school, or of the main characters are children of that age that are attending school. So pretty self-explanatory to me. Mark, you have any deviations to what a school movie constitutes?
I mean, as long as it involves school, we're good.
Okay. All right. Did you have any movies that you were like, yes, this does have school in it, but I'm not going to qualify it for whatever reason?
I put together a list of good school movies, and it was long, and I was like really had trouble whittling it down to my top 5. And there are movies that I know people are going to be like, how do you leave that out? Things like Mean Girls or 10 Things I Hate About You or Rock and Roll High School, for those of you that remember that old school Ramones movie from back in the day. I didn't even put in a John Hughes movie. No Breakfast Club, no 16 Candles, no Pretty in Pink.
Okay.
What about you?
Right.
Do you have any honorable school mentions?
Yeah, I absolutely do. So it's funny that you mentioned John Hughes, a movie that I watched plenty of times and I still enjoy. And I got my wife to watch it, I think a couple years ago, is Breakfast Club. So that's on my honorable mention list. Maybe it should be on my top 5. It's not, but maybe I'll change my mind one of these days. But yeah, that's a big one. Another one that I thought that had a lot of scenes in school, involved kids around that age that they're in school, which was Karate Kid, the original. And I did not pick that one because of the overall setting, because I think that almost cheapens what that movie's all about, which is the true spirit of karate. It's all about balance, son.
Well,
All about
Daniel-san is
balance.
going to school, the school of Miyagi-Do.
Yeah, true. But I did not have that as a pick. What are some of your other honorable mentions?
An older movie that we used to watch in school, because I was in band in school, Mr. Holland's Opus.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Interesting.
That's a movie that hits way different as a dad now. Like that movie is totally different, but I love me some Richard Dreyfuss. And I'm
Have you ever
sad
seen
that's not
that?
on my list. What?
Have you ever seen the Saturday Night Live skit where it was like the Star Wars anniversary and it was like all the outtakes of the people that supposedly read for Star Wars, and one of them's Richard Dreyfuss. I can't remember which actor it was that was portraying him, but he's like, "It's Richard Dreyfuss. Damn you. I told you didn't want to wear that damn mask." And he's reading for C-3PO. For another one for me for school, it's my favorite Harry Potter movie because most of those are in school anyways, but none of the Harry Potters made it onto my list, but very, very close was my favorite Harry Potter movie, and I think the best of the Harry Potters, which was The Order of the Phoenix. So I was super into that. And then another one that I thought, once again, fit under the school criteria, but at the heart of it, it's a movie about unity and sports and how a community comes together. Another Disney movie, Remember the Titans. Oh God, just such a great movie, great sports movie. And I thought that was just a good movie overall. So I kind of opted not to go for that, because if I did, my school list would be Karate Kid, Remember the Titans, and then that's it. Everything else would kind of like fall off the list.
Dude, your honorable mentions are making my like actual mentions look like shit. It also brings up one other Richard Dreyfuss film that I left out, which is American Graffiti.
Mm.
which technically revolves around a bunch of high schoolers, but doesn't really take place in a school. And another old movie I left off was Grease, and Grease 2, which is the terrible of the Grease movies.
I'm okay with Grease being off the list, and keep in mind I was a band kid too, and we played a Grease medley for one of our halftime shows, which was really sweet. But
We did a
yeah,
Grease
I'm okay
marching
with
band
that.
comp thing.
It's it's all right, you know, but I don't think it's upper echelon in terms of that stuff. Great
Yeah.
musical. If you say like, hey, let's go for the musical movies, it might be my number one. If we ever do a episode about that, I think you guys all know what it's going to be. But yeah, the other one is going to be, um, and I'm almost kind of hesitant to say a lot of these honorable mentions because I feel like I might be sniping some of your actual picks.
You
But
haven't touched
super
one of them
bad.
yet.
Okay, super bad was another honorable mention that was like this close to being on my list and being the top of the list because I love that movie. That movie's
Yeah.
hilarious. But I felt that it wasn't necessarily about school. I just thought it was about kids trying to get laid, which is fun enough. You
That
know,
might
that's
be.
fun.
Uh-oh. You remember how you don't talk about a perfect game? You may have hit one of mine. You may have.
Okay.
You may have,
All
and you
right.
may have gotten the full list with that whole statement. But regardless,
Well,
regardless,
with that being said, let's just go on to the list. So, Mark, why don't you break him off with number five?
I'm gonna bring you over to number five, which is my least school centric but most amazing monologue ever delivered in a school. Hooah! I'm gonna go with Scent of a Woman.
Mm,
Mm,
great
a
pick. Great
young,
pick.
a young, impressionable Chris O'Donnell sees his classmates at an all boys school do some bad shit, and he is like there because he's like Goodwill Hunting. He's like his dad's a janitor or some shit, and he takes a job showing Al Pacino around the city, saves his life, does all this, and then Al Pacino goes to speak on behalf of his character, and he would bring a flamethrower to the place. Ooh, love that movie, and it all comes back to being a Baird man.
It's love that movie. Of course, Al Pacino. I believe he won the Oscar for that that
He
year,
he
didn't
did
he?
win an award for that, yes.
He is just so damn good in that movie, and it was just like an eye opener of a movie for me as to like, oh wow, this guy can act besides The Godfather. You know, like because a lot of the stuff that he was doing in like the 70s and even 80s, I'm just like, yeah, okay. And don't come at me with like Scarface or anything like that.
I know that
Uh,
you hate Scarface. It's
I
okay.
don't hate it. I think it's overrated. That's all that I'll say about that. But I don't know if Scent of a Woman that to me doesn't fall under that school category. But yes, that speech
It's
is
the only
fantastic.
Oscar winner I could put on my list.
That's awesome.
Best
Okay,
actor in a
well,
leading role.
my number five, which is respectable pick and a respectable movie overall. Mine is a 2002 movie directed by someone who had touched the Fast and the Furious franchise and revived it, Justin Lin, and that is Better Luck Tomorrow. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie. Maybe many of you are not, but that was a movie that like just really stood out to me just because me being Filipino and growing up basically in suburban white America and really acting and being treated as a white kid with the exception of like the occasional like, hey, you're not white, you're probably Chinese or Japanese. This movie really spoke to me just because it was like, wow, there's this group of Asian kids sticking together, getting into some bad shit while still keeping up, well, at least one of them, keeping up with their grades, keeping up with their sports activities and stuff. And yeah, it was just like very well directed, very deep, almost like that bummer of a movie because it has like kind of that twist ending at the end if you don't see it coming. But yeah, really great movie. Justin Lin, that's how I first was introduced to him. And when I saw that he was doing the Fast and Furious franchise, I was like, wait, the guy that did Better Luck Tomorrow? I don't see how that fits, but he did a fantastic job. But yeah, really, that's my number 5 pick. Better Luck Tomorrow.
That's very cool. Very cool. My number 4 pick also has ties to the Fast and the Furious and was the first time that I saw the lead actor from those movies, or at least from the first few movies. The 1999 classic about not wanting your life, Varsity Blues.
I figured that that was going to be on the list. And funny enough, I thought I'm not going to pick that movie because I didn't really like that movie as much as everyone else did. But Mark will probably pick it, so I'll just, I
Yeah,
just
no,
won't even.
that's definitely a Mark movie. Oh,
Like, how did
no,
that resonate for you when you saw that movie? And was that like the talk of the town at school, like after that movie came out?
I don't know if it was the talk of the town. Like I didn't go to a Texas high school, and the football team was not taken very seriously where I went to school. But it was just one of those like seminal high school movies. It was came out right in the middle of my high school run, um, and was full of all of the debaucherous things that we all hoped that we would get to do in high school, right? Um, None of which came to pass. But I mean, you got the Dawson in it, you got John
The
Voight,
Dawson.
you got the Scott Can during his highlight. You got Amy Smart in this. You got the stripper teacher. I don't even know her name, but such a solid movie about just yeah, it was just good. I just enjoyed it very much.
Okay, fair enough. And as much as of a Dawson's Creek fan as I was, I didn't really want to see that movie, with the exception of the whole the ice cream sundae scene, whatever it was. That's the only thing
Whipped
that I
cream
was like,
bikini.
yeah, that was like a high five moment to me, and I can't remember who I was watching it with. Like, yes, high five, and then that's all that I remember from that movie. That's pretty
Yeah.
much. Besides, I don't want your laugh, which is, good God, the worst accent that James Vanderbeek ever could have done for a
I mean,
character. But
don't mess with the Dawson.
I'm not messing with Dawson. I'm messing with that movie. That's not a great movie. So,
I
but
mean,
hey, it's your pick for a school movie. So
dude, there was a guy
props
named
to
Billy
you.
Bob who was ginormous and had a pig as a dog. I
All
mean, come on.
right.
And let's be
Well,
honest, Vanderbeek's from Connecticut. So that was a Connecticut Texas accent, which I mean, it could have been worse.
it was something, and I do respect James Vanderbeek. Have you ever checked out his little I won't say remake, but like almost a short film with the Power Rangers?
No.
Pretty sweet. Kind of sweet for James Vanderbeek to be in like a short film about Power Rangers, and yeah. I don't really remember much about it, but I remember watching it. I was like, holy shit, that looks badass. If they can make that into a real movie, that would be sweet. And Vanderbeek was in it. So but my number 4 is from the year I graduated high school, 2001. Shout
Ooh.
out Marist High School. Yay. Or for anyone who is just like all about comedy, ridiculousness, and all of those teen movies that were happening at the time. Um, I think you couldn't go a week without like a new teen movie coming out. And so this 2001 classic, directed by Joel Gallen, who probably none of you know who that is, the movie is Not Another Teen Movie with Mr. Captain America, Chris Evans himself in the title role.
Also, a whipped cream bikini in this movie.
Not like you would expect.
No, not
Probably
it
on
was the
a,
whipped cream banana split.
yeah, probably sexier in this movie compared to Varsity Blues. So I will say that Varsity Blues is pale in comparison to the to the performances in Not Another Teen Movie. But you have such a big cast in that. And it took off of so many different movies. She's All That, which I saw in theaters a few times. Obviously, you have the American Pie parodies in that, but you got Chris Evans. You also have another Billy Bob in there, right? And just a good, fun romp, and even calling back to some of those classics like The Breakfast Club. So, how can you not love that?
Dude, speaking of how can you not love it, my number 3 is maybe one of the best loved movies of all time, a classic, A quoted, well-loved, never remade start to an amazing trilogy that is still celebrated to this day. A 1985 classic directed by Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, that doesn't qualify.
Oh, Back to the
Totally doesn't
Future
qualify.
absolutely qualifies. Half the movie takes place in a high school.
Uh,
Yes. Number 3, with a bullet, Back to the Future.
so I was thinking about, and a great movie, right? Like I had that on my list, but I opted not to put it on there because I don't think it qualifies. Like if you just say it's a school movie, yeah, what about the time travel? What about the camaraderie with Marty and Doc and everything else? Like there's just so many different factors to that. Not saying it's a cheap name to this list. It's a fantastic name to this list. It's just I took it out of respect for all the other school focused movies that was like, I can't put Back to the Future on there. It's gonna be number one. The fact that it's number three on your list is bananas ape shit crazy to me.
The next two are very school focused, but I could
Okay.
not put Back to the Future on it. Back to the Future is probably my top 5 movies of all time, and just the dynamic is very high school, and it's very there. The Biff and his parents thing, like it's just, and you get to grow up and see what, and you get to get a view, right? As a kid watching to that movie of what happens to the kids that act like Biff in high school when they grow up. You get the full view of what a Biff Tannen is now. Go wash my car, Biff.
But I mean, really, before he was the boss of George McFly, so I don't know. Depends on how
Well,
you
I
look
mean,
at
that's
it.
what happens when you don't stand up to your bullies.
Who's really the bad person in that movie? Is it Biff or is it Marty McFly for going back in time and fucking everything up and changing what was supposed to happen?
He didn't intentionally go back in time, though. Doc Brown is the villain.
Yeah. But he's still there. He's still there. And it's Marty. One could argue that it's Marty's actions. But you know what? That debate's for another episode. Um,
Mm.
Going down to my number three. This is a movie that I want to go see in theaters. And I was thinking, like, yeah, like I've got nothing else to do tonight. Let's go watch it. Didn't think anything of it. Didn't even really like the actors that were in it, the lead actors that were in it. And so I went in with very low expectations and left thinking this might be the best possible reboot from the 80s ever. And that is
Oh,
2012's 21 Jump Street with Channing Tatum and that everyone's favorite actor, Jonah Hill.
yeah. It's funny.
It
It's
is. It
not even an
absolutely is
honorable
funny.
mention for me. Oh, the I don't know if it's the reboot nature of it or that I don't know. I don't know. I might be too old for it to have hit me. I enjoy it. I watched 22 Jump Street. My favorite part of 21 Jump Street is when Johnny Depp shows up.
Yeah. My favorite is just like the subtleties of everything and really like how Channing Tatum was the man in high school and he goes back and everything is just completely opposite. You got people that want to recycle and don't care about the environment or that do care about the environment where it was cool to like litter back in the day. And just kind of seeing the dynamic with Jonah Hill. First, you get to see a skinny Jonah Hill. That was surprise number one, right? But number two is you get to see like this idiot of a buffoon in Channing Tatum's character become humbled and like, oh yeah, I guess it's kind of not cool to be a fucking prick to everyone. And just the comedy itself, you got Ice Cube as the captain talking about Korean Jesus because that's
Mhm.
where their headquarters are at. How fucking perfect is that
And
movie?
Korean Gist was hilarious.
There was another clip. Oh, by the way, too, I don't know if it introduced us to her. I think she had a few movies before, but Captain Marvel Brie Larson is also in that movie as Jonah Hill's love interest in that. But Rob Riggle, once again, another great comedic performance. We loved him in Step Brothers. We loved him in every other comedic movie that he's in. Even some of the serious stuff, we love him. But yeah, it's just such a stacked cast, and even Dave Franco really, really funny in that movie. Just I can't say enough good things about that. I actually kind of want to go watch it now. Maybe we should just do that for the podcast. Is 21 Jump Street? Have you
Dude,
revisited?
I did not know that that was Brie Larson.
Yeah,
Did not know
Brie
that that was
Larson.
Brie Larson. Didn't Rob Riggle get his dick shot off in that movie?
He did. He did, but he
That
picked it
that
up with
is
his mouth, so it's
Yeah, that is
fine.
what I remember about that movie and Rob Riggle. And only Rob Riggle could do it in that most rigorous manner where he just,
Ah, so good.
just
So,
took it.
side note tangent here. Have you ever seen the skit with Rob Riggle when he was the person that shot Bin Laden?
No.
You have to go check that out. I want to say it was on A Funny or Die. But there's a skit.
Mm.
This happened right after Osama bin Laden got killed. But basically, the mission happens. Rob Riggle is there, and he's being debriefed, and they're asking him or telling him like, obviously, no one can know about this, but you did a fantastic service for this country, and he's just being all proud and everything. And then the next scene cuts to him going to a bar saying, "I shot Bin Laden," in his Riggle bellowing voice, and everyone's just like getting drunk and hammered and partying with him. So definitely worth it to check out. Rob Riggle is the person who
It
killed
looks
Bin
like A
Laden.
Funny or Die. I just looked it up. I'm gonna watch it after the podcast.
Nice. You should. You should. Why don't you talk about your number two as we go down this list? We're going down to the nitty gritty right here, but this better be a knock me on my ass type of movie because the fact that you put Back to the Future as number three is just crazy to me.
I mean, speaking of amazing movies with Jonah Hill in them, Superbad is number two.
I'm
Superbad
okay
is
with that.
number two because I feel like that is that once in a generation high school comedy. Like, there's that one, and it was past my generation. Like, this came out when I was in college, but it was like the heavy hitters in this movie are insane from a cast perspective. And it just encapsulated like just the high school experience of just like how can we go get into some shit? I'm sick of not getting into some shit. Why are you dressed like Aladdin?
My only critique and complaint about the movie isn't really a complaint. It's the fact that it's so damn funny and it's so quotable, but it's so vulgar that I cannot quote that movie now in my professional career because it's just that bad. So all my favorite lines are just complete lines that like, yeah, you can't say that in public. No, this movie is so freaking funny and I agree with you. I was the reason why I didn't put it on my list is because I thought it was more of a coming of age uh party romp as opposed to strictly school. Um one of the things like so let me ask you this like with Stand By Me, younger kids not in school, coming of age tale. If you talk about Superbad, there were scenes in school. Most of the scenes are outside of school, right? The ones that were in school are freaking hilarious, but it
It
didn't revolve
revolves,
around the plot, right?
but it revolves around a school party, right? And I mean, there's so many quotable pieces from when they're in the school. When Jonah Hill is talking about being a single mother in home
Yeah.
ec, like a single mother. Like,
When the fuck am I
I,
gonna learn how to make Why do I fuck I need to
what am I
make
gonna make this?
tiramisu?
This is
Never.
bullshit. I'm sorry.
I'm
They're
sorry.
bullshit.
Look at oh man, one of my favorite not funny but funny scenes to me is when Michael Cera and his partner during home ec is just like good shit, right, Maroki? And that to me is like the funniest thing. One of the guys I used to work with, we would just talk to each other, and anytime we felt like just having some levity in the conversation, we just like good shit, right, Maroki? Like, yeah, okay, cool, we're good. So
It's just
funny stuff.
yeah. It's I don't know. For me, it is one of those quintessential like as much as I enjoy the John Hughes movies and I want to go like Breakfast Club or Pretty in Pink on the list and be that guy, those aren't the movies that I enjoy. Like I
And
enjoy
yeah,
them, don't get me wrong. I like the emotional roller coaster, but I mean, come on. I was not that person in high school. I did not have that level of emotional intelligence. I was a child. I still am a child, and that's why Superbad is number two.
yeah. And I think that's because it's not our era's movie. So I'm perfectly fine with stating that. I still like The Breakfast Club, but of course I'm going to resonate more to American Pie. Um, for the record, well, I won't even say anything about it, but I'll talk about my number two, which is on your honorable mentions list.
Ooh.
Uh, this movie was just so freaking good, and I saw it at a young age. So for this movie to captivate me and really make it like, whoa, this is super interesting. I can't necessarily relate to this, but the story has me hooked. I want to see where this goes. And that was Richard Dreyfuss and Mr. Holland's Opus. So 1995, I saw it. I think it was in like 96. So I wasn't that
Mm-hmm.
old, but I love the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I have ties to band and everything, so that's partially the reason why I liked it. And I love music. I loved performing music as well. But I thought it was just a very captivating story from beginning to end. The fact that this guy, I mean, how heartbreaking is it that a guy who his entire life revolves around music has a child and can't hear? He cannot share, at least at face value, he cannot share his life's passion with his son. And that's something that really struggles overall for him, also as a viewer. So it's like, wow, how can this movie, how can this movie be so deep? Because it wasn't just about his son. It was about him
No.
and all of his adventures. It was about all of his students. So I took to that very, very uh, I just took to it. That's the only thing I can say. And it reminded me a little bit of my band director in high school, who was a really great, or is a really great man. And I had seen the movie before meeting him. And so I was like, wow, there's a lot of similarities to this guy. And so life is funny. Life imitates art sometimes and vice versa. But Mr. Hans Opus, number two,
Dude,
can't say enough good things about it.
have you watched that movie since you've had kids?
I have, yeah. It's
Did
still,
it
it's
hit it hit me totally different. Totally I was a weepy bitch in that movie since
I
watching it.
probably would be now. It's
Oh,
been like a few years. I think I saw it maybe a few years after my oldest was born. But the big thing, and actually, I almost started tearing up talking about,
mhm.
how he was his life's passion,
Oh,
and his son couldn't share that with him.
dude.
But they found a way to share that, which was awesome. It's so cool, and that is something that I can only hope that my kids will kind of experience, like I love the fact that my son totally takes his phone and watches our podcast. And I don't ask him to watch it, and nor do I really encourage him to watch it, but he'll say things from like previous episodes, like, hey, when you're doing that episode with Mark and you guys talked about this. And to me, it's just like, wow, you actually took a genuine interest into watching dad's stuff, even though this is just a passion project for us. So yeah, absolutely hits different.
Mhm.
I have a tendency to be more emotional during movies now. So I probably would think that if if under the right circumstances, I would probably get a little teary-eyed for sure.
I think it scared my wife how much it I totally was just like it was one of those like snuck up on you kind of things for me. Like I've watched the movie like 100 times, I'm sure. Like, right? Because whenever it was on cable or something, it was a good background movie
It was on all the time too.
all the time. But like put it on the other day because she's like, I don't remember that movie. I'm like, oh, it's great. We should watch it. And then I'm just full on Kevin Smith sobbing session
Did
during
you
this.
try to hi- did you try to hide it?
Why? It's just my wife. I watched it at home. I don't care. I will
I
openly weep, Dan. I'm comfortable enough in my masculinity to just cry. It's okay.
During Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I had to like put my hand up on my eye. I'm like, all right, I can't let my wife and my two kids see that I'm crying at a Marvel movie right now. So, um, The second time I saw it, where it was by myself, luckily I had 3D glasses, but they were it was a father and a son next to me,
Mhm.
and I had my hood up because I had the feeling that I might get teary-eyed, so I had the hood up the entire time along with my 3D glasses. So yeah, I am not as open with my emotions.
Dude, you're
So
not the
yeah,
only person to cry at a Marvel movie. The beginning of Endgame, like where they open it and then his whole family disappears, just like,
yep,
whoa.
yeah. But of course, we have to bring up comics and comic book movies in this podcast because we can do this all day, and that's the name of the podcast. But what about your? Is it your number one now?
It is my number one. Number one with a bullet. The movie that I wasn't old enough to go see in theaters, but I bought a ticket for episode one and snuck into this theater. I believe it was at Chicago Ridge Mall. Towards the end of my maybe sophomore or junior year of high school. To see the Jason Biggs classic, American Pie. Definitely my number one.
You
I
had me
saw this.
confused there when you said episode one. I was like, what the Star
The
Wars? What the
Phantom
fuck?
Menace was out at the same time as American Pie. Um, and I'd already seen that a bunch of times. But I saw this movie maybe 2 weeks before going to like a collegiate level band camp, like for a week. Um, and yeah, this is a seminal high school memory for me, and just a great movie. Like I've seen all of them, not the spin-offs, not so much, but all with the original cast. Huge fan.
Yeah. Great movie. I love American Pie. I left it off my list because I thought it was a little bit unfair to keep it on there. So I wanted to be a little bit different. But yes, that's a movie I can do all day for sure. I don't even need to do an episode about it. I'll just say it. I can do it all day. No problem. So
Yeah,
I have no
hands
qualms with
down.
that. The only I had to come up with an argument as to why I wanted to keep it off besides that, and part of it was just uh it doesn't hold up in terms of political correctness, right? Because it wasn't politically correct when it came out. It's viewed even worse. So that's part of the reason as to why I was just
Yeah,
like, you know what, I'm gonna leave it off. I love it. I will wholeheartedly endorse it. But at the same time, it's also to me not just about school. It's about getting laid. You know, that's there's fantastic school parts in it, but yeah, it's about trying to get laid.
I
So
mean, isn't that what
I
most high school movies are about?
true, true, but I felt like that was the end mission, not to graduate high school, or
Huh.
yeah, you
I
got the prom thing, right? But man, I
I'm
don't know. Maybe I'm
surprised.
just trying to come up with an argument that's not there.
I mean, I'm with you on the politically correctness end of it. Like if the events of this movie happen today, there's no way those kids who live broadcast a naked chick on the internet would have gone anywhere near any other high school events. They would have been at the expellee high school. They would have had some Jeds. There would not have
Yeah,
been an American Pie 2 in college. They'd have been
there
at community
is
college.
there are some rapey vibes in there too, so it's just like, yikes. But
Yeah.
yeah, funny movie. I'm okay with it. Uh,
Mhm.
you know
Mhm.
what? Sue me if you have a problem with that. But
No, and
uh,
I understand your reasoning on leaving it off because that's why I left Porky's off my list.
so I've never watched the entire movie of Porky's. I've
It's an
only
older
seen
movie, so it's
parts.
slow going. I haven't watched it in probably 20 years,
Would you
but I remember it
consider
being a funny when I worked at the video store, RIP Hollywood Video. I remember that being pretty funny, like a good one to just turn on when you're like putting shit away and everybody's gone for the night.
what about Meatballs? Would you consider Meatballs like a school movie, even though it was a
Mhm.
summer camp movie?
Yeah, that's a summer camp movie. Like
Okay.
I can't do
Okay.
heavyweights because that's a or Camp Nowhere because
Okay.
those are summer camp movies, not school movies.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, a solid pick. American Pie is great, but another reason why I left it off is because I thought American Pie 2 was better. So that was one of the
Ooh,
things.
Tissa.
But it's not a school movie because it's happening over the summer. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but anything else about American Pie? Any other favorite
I
quips or any
just
other funny stories that stem from American Pie?
um the song me and my wife did our first dance to at our wedding is the same song from American Wedding.
I
We
was
we
hoping.
met we met
Oh,
in high school in like marching band camp. So it just kind of stood up. It was a great movie reference.
I was hoping you were gonna say our first dance was the dance that Jim, or this was the song that Jim was dancing to for Nadia in the bedroom. Like that would have been
No, no,
hilarious.
yeah, no. I just I can't get over how deep that cast is though. Like you got the kid from who shows up every year at the Cubs game from Rookie of the Year, right? Ian Scott Thomas, who basically did nothing else good in his career. You got Shannon Elizabeth, who had her her swing as like a an Uber hottie.
Hold on, hold on. What did you say his name was?
Did I mix him up with did I mix him up with I thought it
I
was
don't even know the name you said, and I don't think it's right at all. What did you
Ian
say his
Thomas.
name was?
Ian Thomas. I don't. I always mess it up.
I think you
I'm
said
bad with
Ian
names.
Thomas Scott, and his name is Thomas Ian Nicholas.
Okay, yeah, then I totally messed it up.
Oh my God, that one's going as a short for sure. Like I was like, wait a
Oh,
second, hold on, there's no way you said that. Those aren't even unpronounceable names, but I
Okay.
understand. Anything.
Yeah, yeah. Thomas Ian Nicholas. I mixed up with with Sean William Scott, who
Okay.
is well underrated. Sean William Scott should be in more movies forever. I am a huge fan of the Stiffmeister. I think he's hilarious.
He is. He's so fucking good. And I don't know if you've seen any like podcast appearances or interviews that he's had where he's just like his normal chill self. But the fact that you can be such a shy, reserved guy and fucking turn it on as Steve
Oh,
Stifler, that's acting ability. But if you've ever seen any of his other movies, have you checked out the promotion? Him and John C. Riley are excuse me, are in that. Very underrated movie.
yeah.
Not a lot of people have seen that. That's a fantastic movie.
All
But
the
yeah,
Goon hockey movies were good.
yep.
A lot of stuff he's done. Also, this gave us Natasha Lyonne as a grown up. Not her
She
first
came,
great movie, but
yeah. Well, Slums of Beverly Hills was the
yeah,
first one, right? Where she was
yes,
the breakout.
where she killed that
Apparently,
too.
the TV show that she did, Poker Face, which
Hmm.
is on Peacock or Peacock, as it's correctly pronounced.
Yeah,
That's I heard that's amazing. I haven't gotten a chance to check that out yet, but definitely will. But yeah,
and
deep cast.
two underrated. You mentioned the MILF. Where was Jennifer Coolidge before this? Because she hit
I have no
this
idea.
and then Legally Blonde, and now we're in the renaissance of Jennifer Coolidge, which I'm all about. Um, Super underrated, and Eugene Levy, who I can't get enough of in anything, from SCTV to whatever.
Yeah,
Like
really good cast.
just so good, so good. Um, and that's why it's number one. From Allison Hannigan on down to everybody. I can't get enough of the cast. So your number one better
Agreed.
measure up, buddy.
Oh, I think it buries everything. And this is a truly
Oh,
legit school movie. And I'm surprised this was not mentioned on your honorable mention list, or even at two, three, four, or five.
ooh.
But this is a movie we talked about on the podcast very briefly a few episodes ago. But it stars my favorites of action heroes, 1990, directed by Ivan Reitman, Kindergarten Cop.
Ah,
The
oh,
best school movie,
yeah,
period.
yeah, yeah. I can't argue.
So quotable. Hell, they even made internet soundboards and internet prank phone calls
That was the
based on
best.
the dialogue in this
Who's your
movie.
daddy and what does he do?
This is Cracker Barrel. It's like so fantastic. If anyone doesn't remember those, try and look them up. I don't know if obviously Kazaa and Morpheus aren't around, so you can't illegally download them and cause a virus on your computer. But see if you can look up the Arnold's prank phone calls.
Oh,
And
dude.
a majority of the dialogue is stuff from Kindergarten Cop, and
Yes.
it's so good. So good. But
Yeah,
that the movie itself is all encompassing school, but it has that nice that nice feel good moment of just kids being kids and just doing stupid shit, being honest, being their genuine selves.
Mhm.
And it was like they put a camera in a classroom and they didn't even know the movie was going on. They didn't know Arnold Schwarzenegger was an actor. They were just like, "Yep, let it roll. Just whatever happens happens." And I feel like that's what happened in that movie.
Yeah, I can't argue with Kindergarten Cop. I love that movie. I
Did you
think
forget about it?
I did. I leaned more on high school and college like movies that I enjoyed, right? Like Kindergarten Cop was something that I liked as a kid and wasn't part of my like deep cinematic watch it a bunch of times through high school and college. And it's recently come back into the rotation. But yeah, no, did not even, it's not even on my full giant, 4x4 post-it note. Not there. Not there.
It
And I'm
was
disappointed that
so
it's not there.
it was so quick to go to my number one. I was like, school, Kindergarten Cop, number one.
I
The
went American Pie number one. So I can't argue with America. I can't argue at all. I think I'm really surprised that there's no overlap.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
That's
There's a
shocking.
little bit of like, honorable mentions to our list, but
Yeah, but
very
that's
little overlap.
yeah, no direct overlap. And I'm telling you, if people spend half of their day to day off of school watching half of these movies, like man, what a day. What a day.
Would you say that like your number one is the absolute number one that you'd recommend for someone? Like if you could only watch one off the list, it has to be number one.
I mean, no, because it's Back to the Future, but I mean, the recommending has to be in context.
Sure.
That's
Hey,
just like a
are you down with dick and fart jokes and exploitation of people without their consent?
yeah.
Well, if
Are
you
you
are,
okay with titties and fucking a pie? I have a movie for you.
my wife, every time she sees an apple pie at a grocery store, she always says, "We can't get that because it just reminds me of that guy fucking the pie in American Pie." So it's just like,
We'll just tell her we ate it all. Eugene Levy
uh,
in that movie. It's so underrated. It's
yeah.
so underrated. Oh man. But
I
Arnold wins the day. I can't even. I'm so disappointed that we never got a follow-up to Kindergarten Cop.
There is a Dolph Lundgren kindergarten cop too.
Is that like
So
Larry the Cable Guy Jingle All the Way to?
yes, my wife and I tried to watch it. We both fell asleep. Um, Not to say I won't revisit it for the podcast, but yeah,
Mm.
it's not John Kimball.
Maybe
It's
maybe
Dolph
next
Lundgren.
year this time we could do that.
Maybe. Maybe another if there's another holiday that's coming up on a Monday, I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, another
Maybe we can do
school
something like that.
holiday.
Exactly.
Oh man. Well,
But that's our list, everyone. I think you have a fantastic list, although I will argue about the Back to the Future one. Um, it's both fantastic lists, and I think if there was a weak one, I would say it's going to be on my list, and it's Better Luck Tomorrow, just because not a lot of people know about that movie. So that would be my
that's
only my
okay.
only
I
critique.
would bet most people right now that you talk to in a podcast listening demographic don't know what Scent of a Woman is.
I don't know about that. I mean, Al
Mm.
Pacino, really? Actually, I would also argue that that doesn't qualify. I would say Back to the Future, but Back to the Future does qualify way more than Scent of a Woman. But
You know
yeah,
what
I mean,
else?
fantastic
I'm
movie list.
you know what else I'm just realizing and it didn't come up on our honorable mentions that I'm disappointed in? Animal House.
Is it school or is it just shenanigans?
I
Like
mean,
that's a fantastic movie. I love it.
filmed at the University of Oregon.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I don't know why I act so surprised by that and my voice went so high.
Oh,
Because
really?
why would I have known that anyways?
I
And
don't
why
know.
would I have cared about it?
I
But
don't know.
yeah.
Hmm.
Another movie that is, hey, if you're okay with non-consensual sex,
Ah,
yeah, check it out.
I feel like that's so many movies from the 80s and 90s.
Oh
It's
man.
just a habit. It's a thing.
Yeah. It's a different time,
It
right?
is.
Can we say that? Is it's just a different time and is that a good enough
It's
excuse?
we shouldn't be able to say that. It's
No.
not good.
No,
So
exactly. So I don't know why even. You're
yeah,
disgusting, Mark. God.
terrible person. Let's take a moment to reflect on the real reason that we're off school today and that nobody in the federal government is working. You know, somebody had a dream and it was cut down easily. That's how we're getting our retribution for talking about all these, female sexploitation movies that we just gave top fives of.
To the true king, happy Martin Luther King Day, everyone. This is Dan, the part-time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi.
If you like these kind of shenanigans, subscribe, like, hit us up on social media, and feel free to just tell us why we're wrong and terrible people too. We love that. Hate, 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 hate.